Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to a brand new sort of video. We are doing a tier maker video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as someone who's been playing Overwatch since at least 2017, I've seen the game gradually get worse over time, owing to Blizzard promising so much and delivering very few things in return. If it's not the fact that we go nearly 16 months without a new character, and this is a trend, this is ongoing, endless promises about Overwatch 2, which seem incredibly futile at this point, because there doesn't really seem to be much hope for anything in this game at this point. If it's not the fact that they take away more maps than they do give things, it's sort of what Overwatch has become is we less has become so less that we mean we're actually taking away stuff that we've had since the very beginning. This is even including Horizon Lunar Colony, which we haven't seen back in action in nearly 2 years, and Paris, the disaster of that map. But I'll tell you what, we'll do the maps on a separate video, but right now we're just focusing at all 32, I believe, heroes. I think that's the official listing right now, because if I remember, I think it was either Baptiste or Ash was hero number 30. Also, I think. Let me just. There are dogs barking outside. That's why I have to shut the window, I'm afraid. So let's just move on and let's tier up every single Overwatch hero in the game. And I'll tell you what. Let's just straight up start with Ana. I'll tell you what. You know what? I'm gonna put her I think in my opinion, absolutely in the middle of this. Sleep Dart is one of the nastiest abilities in the game if it connects, and Bionade is something that a lot of people use. They use it more offensively than defensively to heal a vast amount of your players. Some people will try and be a bit I think too clever when playing as Ana, and then of course her nano ability is. It can work, but if an opposing Ana puts it to sleep and possibly is killed on impact, then there's sadly not much you can do. So Ana is kind of very 50-50. It really just comes down to how you play her and if you know what you're doing. Okay, next up we've got Ash, and who were joined from, I believe, November of 2018. So I think I'll put her I'll just put her a little bit higher than Ana for now, because Ash's big thing is she's very hard to hit at distance. Her coach gun can put her she can put herself very far out of the way, so she's sort of protected from trouble. And which is kind of good because Dynamite is another just like Anti-Nade. Dynamite can play havoc with people's armor. It can burn people alive, and then if you shoot somebody in the head, they're gonna go down instantly. And then of course there's Bob, and for some reason Bob is not on this list, which I think is the most appalling idea I could possibly ever consider when doing this. So the only reason why Ash is not high on this is because Bob is not here. Aside from that, Ash's aim is good. She does a lot of power. The way she reloads, that she doesn't have to get all the way back up to 12, so you can just sort of cancel reload and shoot with as many bullets as you like. There's a lot of things to like about Ash, but again, it just comes down to just, being almost an opportunist. Next, Baptiste, and how on earth do you sort of rank our second healer? Do I put her because the thing is that I think honestly Baptiste is sort of just either slightly better than Ana, but do I feel like Baptiste is better than Ana because of his cooldown abilities are a lot shorter than, a lot longer than Ana's, and mortality field is sort of a thing a lot of people have issues with. But the thing is that if you can get rid of it in a few seconds, then you're instantly, you're going to almost win every single fight. But that being said, window ultimate is still something that I'm really sort of split about as to whether or not it's good or bad, because nano blade, nano boost. It's like it's like giving somebody steroids. Window is sort of, it gives everybody steroids. It turns everybody into Bastion more or less. So I'll tell you what, I'll put just because of cooldowns being shorter, I'll put Baptiste just below Ana. Next up, Bastion. I think I'm going to put him behind here. You know what? Again, it's sort of one of those things where if you know what you're doing, Bastion will win every single time, and he is almost completely unstoppable. If you don't, however, Bastion is going to get like rolled in almost every circumstance. There are actually great places where you can play Bastion where he's not like normally used, so that you can gain a much on the third point of Horizon Lunar of Watchpoint Gibraltar. If the team are like fighting quite far ahead, you can pitch yourself as Bastion near the back, and you can shred through barriers. You can shred through unsuspecting players who think they're fine, even though they're completely out in the open. But there are lots of really good strategical moments involving Bastion in this game. It's just, I'm not entirely sure whether or not they are, you might say, the best overall. I'm pretty. There are plenty of other examples, but I'm just sort of like putting Bastion just down there for now. Brigitte. I'll tell you what. Let's put her just above Ana, because I think Brigitte is tactically is still quite useful, given that her abilities are a little bit too overpowered. At the same time, I just, in terms of like healing, I still feel as if like she's not the most optimal pick for like healing, because healing is sort of more down to that, say, Mercy, Lucio, and Moira. Brigitte is just kind of there to do damage and to fight in up close quarters. I never really played Brigitte that much, even during the GOATS meta of Overwatch. But I think it's again down to situations, and there are certain things that Brigitte absolutely has no chance in, especially if you're up against Bastion. But there are plenty of others where Brigitte will cause mayhem when you literally come down the ranks and you're completely strapped to the teeth with armor. However, Doomfist is one of those things. You know what? I'm putting Doomfist in the A category. Doomfist is he is actually one of my favourites in this game. He's not perhaps, again, the most optimal. He's not necessarily the one who has the greatest reputation for staying alive incredibly long in fights. But I think there's something incredibly satisfying that you press down your right click and you hear that charge up, and boom! It's like firing a slingshot, and the satisfaction when you see an enemy flying across the screen and then smack into the wall and they're dead. And I think again, those who play Doomfist almost every single game, either they know absolutely what they're doing and you should just let them get on with it, and they will all. But I think the big thing for Doomfist is that you have to play like you know what you're doing, and you have to play with the assumption, as it were. And I don't really like using the word like assumption or assume nowadays. You have to play Doomfist as though you know you're not going to get any backup or help. You've got to be rather independent, because Doomfist can build up shields through damage he does, and there's quite a lot of really practical uses for Doomfist. But I think there are much better characters out there than Doomfist. But again, just because I use him a lot, he's sort of my ideal choice to test things out. I think this is more like my preference than anything, but there you go. D.Va. Oh, gee, heavens to. Let's put D.Va down here, because I don't really like play D.Va all that much, but at the same time, I think once I get into a rhythm about how exactly I can play D.Va, then I'm still a little bit miffed, because she doesn't have shields. She has a matrix, which is good for causing havoc against stuff like Fire Strike, Graviton Surge, Blizzard. There's a lot of... There's practical uses, but then again, D.Va's sort of... Her missiles only do so much. Her little fusion cannons only do like one pellet, even at mid-range. Her speed is significantly reduced when firing, and I think she's just a bit too big, and you can hit her too easily. Baby D.Va, I think, is Hannah herself is just about the only thing that I think I hate even more than the mech itself, because you have to get rid of it early. I don't care about people who say I should stagger Hannah. In my opinion, you just get rid of her as soon as she comes out. No questions asked. Now, I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people out there who play D.Va probably far better than I ever will probably tell me different, and the specific ways of how to use the self-destruct ult, including just nudging it so it falls down from a ledge so everybody dies. But I think, again, it's the sort of role I wouldn't really go for, so there's kind of that. Echo, on the other hand, is much more my sort of thing, but I think... Actually, you know what? I'll put it like this. I think... I think Honor is significantly more effective against stuff like Echo because of the lock-on scope. With that being said, Echo is kind of a bit like Brigitte with wings. She's extremely versatile, she's incredibly effective, she has tremendous range, and her ultimate ability is basically almost 4 ultimates in once, especially if you press Q on Reinhardt and you're basically good to go. And it's even hard to believe that even at this date, Echo is the most recent hero in this game, and she was released back in, March of 2020? And you can probably see, well, I know you can't see the date down here, but we're up to the 20th of August of 2021. Wow. Next up, and I'm just gonna I'm putting Genji up top. Ever since I started playing Genji a few months ago, I will admit to you, like, on the very first game, Genji is absolutely my hero of choice. He is simply the best character in the entire game, and you're going to find out what the second one is a little bit shortly, but just so you know, Genji is... If you slash into someone and kill them, then your dash resets, so you can literally get out of trouble or continue to kill, so you can literally slaughter out. It's basically like a League of Legends champion put into a game. And then, of course, everybody's been clamoring to see the 6-0 Dragon Blades. And I've gotten significantly better at using them over these last few months. And I think I think Genji is like one of those things where there is a lot of effort and skill involved, but at the same time, once you get the hang of it, you can make it look easy. And people who play Genji can make it look easy. And then again, given the fact that, Reflect is sometimes even more cancerous than Brigitte's Shield Bash, I think just speaks volumes. But next up, Hanzo, and I'm just gonna put Hanzo sort of behind Doomfist. Is that I watch Moxie a lot, and he basically one-tricks characters like Hanzo, and I think the key for me when I play Hanzo is not to be too show-offy, not to be too flashy. I feel like I can just... If I know what I'm doing, then I'm going to do well every single time. You get into a rhythm, you know exactly what you're doing, and you can dink people in the head so often that they're not going to stand a chance. I think that's always been the key for me, is that if you give me with something that I know what to do with, then I will win matches time and time again. And I think that's maybe a lot of things for many people out there who play this, is that if they know absolutely how to do this, then they will go to town. Next up, my OG hero back when I was playing on the PS4, Junkrat. Sadly, however, I think he is a bit. Ever since I started playing like Reaper and Genji and countless knows other hit scans, Junkrat's problems are a little bit too big in my opinion. Especially if you can't get your ult built up in moments. So I think Junkrat, I think I'll just have to put him. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll be generous because let's put him down here as well. Now, I'm sort of thinking to myself, you're going to see this like fill up, but then I'll like space it down to the characters I literally feel like I can't stand. One of those characters that is not like that, however, is Lucio, and I'll tell you what, I'll put him in high B because I think Lucio is, again, I feel like I'm very, very good with Lucio because I always do my job with him. To heal people, to ride the walls and look for any opportunistic sort of boops to get people off the map. I play to my strengths, know exactly when to speed boost, know when it's time to heal, know when it's time to like rev it up, and then always, as is the key with just about any Lucio player, know exactly when to press Q. If you're calling a Graviton Surge when you feel like soldiers using Visor, there are plenty of options out there. So again, it's more sort of playstyle, but I feel as someone who's incredibly flex, you got to know what you're doing with what, and just adapt a playstyle that works. And if you know, and certain things just do work. McCree is honestly, I'm kind of a little bit split on McCree, but I think he's far more effective than I think anybody has the right to say, so I'm going to put him in. In fact, actually, I've got a better idea. I'm going to put Doom in the S tier with Genji and keep Hanzo and McCree in there. I think this is just like a better way of like spacing it out, and I'll tell you what, I'll put Brigitte behind Baptiste. May, however, I think this may be the first time I'll have to put like somebody in the D category. May is actually, her strengths are actually kind of a little bit upsetting. I mean, freezing people and then single click to the head, they're dead. Using Ice Wall is a great way to mostly irritate other people. Cryo Freeze to keep yourself out of trouble. The only issue with May is that I would maybe prefer something that has a bit more damage output, because remember, if May is one of your DPS, then you better make sure she like immobilizes and subdues an opposing team very, very quickly. Otherwise, May is like, you're not going to get a chance with her. So like I said before with like Lucio and Doomfist, you've got to know exactly who you're going for and what you're going to use when, and if it's even worth it. Kind of the same problem goes for Mercy. Now, Mercy is, I know when and where to like, you know, use Mercy's abilities. I think, honestly, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put her literally like slap bang in the middle between Ashe and Junkrat. Because if you give me Mercy, then I will just do what I have to do. But the only problem is that I'm, as much as an asset I'm being for the team, at the same time I kind of want to shoot people. I kind of want to shoot people with McCree. I want to shoot people using like Ashe. I want to be a little bit more involved, and there is the thing to say that you are doing a great job as you are by pocketing people as Mercy. I just want to know whether or not I'm being as useful as I could be. It's a strange thing because Overwatch still being a team-based game, you've got to work with your team and not act completely independent. But Mercy, just kind of like Doomfist, was one of those characters where you can play a little bit more independently as long as you keep your team charged up. Next up, and I'm going to have to, again, purely for personal preference, I'm putting, I'm going to put Moira actually between Hanzo and McCree. Moira's, when she came out, it's not just the fact that she's from Ireland. It's not just the fact that Moira's like far easier to play with than some other characters, especially on this list. But it's the fact that back in my PS4 days, I absolutely dominated games as Moira. I would get gold damage, I would get gold support, healing. I would get just about every medal you can find. And ever since like I made the transition to PC, and as I've been going through the tiers, it's not nearly as common to see Moira players, but it's rather more common to see Moira players dying more easily because of like mistimed usage of abilities. Using coalescence means you can't duck, so you're very vulnerable to the likes of hit scans. And there's a lot of other problems besides. But again, if you know what you're doing, then Moira is absolutely going to win you a lot of games, my friend. Now, Orisa. Orisa gave me a little bit... This is actually something that I've been struggling a little bit, because this is only really like the second tank we've had to talk about. And Orisa does have problems, I will admit. Playing with her, she feels far too slow. If you go up against her, she feels far too fast. Fortify will bring any chance of like trying to get into a space down to a halt. Her abilities are... I'd say her abilities aren't really so much a nuisance, rather than they kind of like... They make some games drag out, and her ultimate can also like turn the tides in battle a little bit easier. So I think I'm playing against... I'll play as her, only because I think she's a bit just too slow to play with, and when you play against her, it's... You can't seem to get rid of her fast enough. Then, of course, there's the problems of her being bigger than D.Va. It's very easy to hit her in the head. And just... Her weapon's, like, not too bad. It's just... anyone who's seen, like, the reload time for it is that you're almost waiting for the Earth to rotate another 10 times before she finishes reloading. Next up, we have Farah. Now, Farah, again, is very subject to debate about how effective she can be in certain scenarios. But there's always the case of, even if you're going up against 2 hit scans, having Mercy pocketing you is at least something to try and combat this. It's probably not for the best, but on other situations where you can get in sneak attacks with rockets and even sneaky barrages, there's plenty to be had with Farah. But the question is exactly where on earth would I... I'll tell you what, I'm going to just... in front of Mercy, so at least, Farah at least gets to have her pocket on this tier list. Reaper is instantly S tier. Okay, let me explain why. When I play as Reaper, I always tell my team, it may not look like I'm doing tremendous amounts of damage, but I'm doing what I need to do with him. Like, I will use Shadow Step out of spawn, because I always keep Wraith in time for emergency to hide or run back to my team. That's the sort of thing I recommend to any Reaper enthusiast out there. If you want to play him, then you've got to be ready to get out of trouble when things become too much. Also, the thing I just said there, you've got to know exactly who you're targeting, and you're not going to win a team fight by yourself as Reaper, unless they do something incredibly stupid. His ultimate as well was kind of very hit and miss. Again, I think there are certain characters you have to use it on, like Mercy or Honor, or probably even Junkrat. There are certain things, however, you just simply do not use Death Blossom against. Tanks, anything with more than 400 HP, and anything that has a stun ability, or just one that will just straight up shoot you from a distance. It's very up and close, and you've got to more or less rely on the art of stealth with Reaper than going in gun-ho. Well, at least that's how I play him anyway. But speaking of another S tier, Reinhardt, because he is the most reliable tank in this entire game. This guy has like never failed me when it comes to fights. And he is a tremendous asset because of his shield, because of, Fire Strike is just something that's just basically free ult charge. Earth Shadow is still the most fantastic ult in the game. And finally, you swing if you swing someone with a hammer enough times, you will kill them. It's basically a 500 HP DPS with a hammer and a shield. Roadhog, on the other hand, is basically a DPS with 600 HP and the ability to basically take care of himself in fighting because of his take a breather ability. Hook, however, is one of the single worst abilities in the game, for better and worse. That you could drag somebody towards you, forget to reload, and you have to reload as opposed to one-clipping certain opponents. Whole Hog is sadly like one of those abilities. It's kind of a little bit too 50-50. Sometimes you'll get 1 or 2 kills. Other times you're just kind of hitting at nothing, and the blowback will basically force anyone to retreat and to think about how to go again. Aware of the knowledge that Hog doesn't have his ability on hand. Speaking of hand, Hog is the only character in the entire game where every single thing he has on his kit can be stopped by a stun ability. Reloading can be stopped, Hook can be stopped to bash, Take a Breather can be stopped to a stun ability, and Whole Hog can be stopped to a stun ability. It's important to keep these things in mind because Hog has just as much things going for him as going against him. I even remember a few nights ago, a Genji was coming out of spawn with Dragon Blade and was also nano boosted, and then I caught him with Hook and then one-shotted him. Again, if you could just pull that stuff off time and time again, then it won't matter about the fact that he doesn't have a shield or anything like that. Is that he can just about attack ad nauseam to anyone he wants, as long as he can hit him. Sigma, Big Sig. I'm gonna I think Sig is just kind of like halfway good as a tank. Maybe sort of round about here. Not quite as good as Reinhardt or Roadhog, but I'd rather pick Sigma over Orisa. He's more mobile. His abilities are actually a little bit of a game changer because if his absorb ability could just about... I once reduced nearly a 2000 HP ultimate for my opponents, and by the time they announced the 30 seconds remaining, my shield still didn't deplete to 0. That's quite astounding if you've ever had that happen before. And then, of course, there's the ability where he just throws a rock at someone. It was a big rock, I can say that much. But again, Sigma, I think, again, you know what you're doing, and you will win every single time if you do. No word of lie about that. Sig's awesome. Soldier 76, however, is sort of like... I don't really not sure if I want to put him near F. I'll tell you what, I'll put him maybe... Put him up here, right between a big... The issue with Soldier is that, again, it's sort of more for practice to learn how to DPS in this game. His abilities give him a lot of things to survive with, but there are certain things you'll see shortly that seem far more effective and could probably end any soldier's career. Now, with that being said, Soldier is really, really good at almost just being himself. Like his ultimates, his abilities aren't particularly very stunning or going to set the world on fire, but they do get the job done. As long as they kill someone, then there's no need to say more. Sombra, however, is... I love Sombra. I love what I can do with her, and I love that I can cause mayhem to other teams by sometimes spawn camping, sometimes just doing it just to charge my ult, and then it can turn a fight so quickly. But the problem is that Sombra compositions, or if anyone playing Sombra, a great deal of things you have to do with Sombra is to be subtle and have great communication skills with your team. And I've seen too many bad examples of Sombra players who stay silent throughout the whole game and never make a call about who they're hacking. That's the sort of thing I do all the time. And it can reduce it to a rather ugly experience when people are playing. They obviously just don't know what they're supposed to be doing with what. I sound like one of those salty, fanboys right there. Strange. Sim is... Well, I'll tell you what, no, she doesn't belong in D. She belongs in high A. I don't think she's the most... There are problems with Sim's comp. The fact that it's sort of very stagnant until something actually does happen. But Sim's comp is almost intentionally designed to make her last for years in team fights. Her turrets, it will reduce us like walking in glue. Her ultimate is, honestly, I think a stroke of genius for a 4000 HP shield. And her teleport is just the number one cause of me to have insomniac attacks, thinking the fact that somebody is about to teleport outside my window and they'll take the path of least resistance. Maybe that's what stops, people who use it playing Horizon Lunar Colony, but then again, it was taken away from Blizzard players in the first place, including players of Overwatch. Make of that what you will. Now, Torbjorn. He's going high up here. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Again, if you know absolutely what you're doing with Torb, you are going to win every single fight. His 0 damage fall off means that you can just shoot at incredibly long distances, and I've played a lot of Torb since his redesign nearly 3 years ago, and it makes him so incredibly reliable to not only build up ultimates, but to shred through. It's basically like having two heroes with Torb, and then you've got his turret in place. It's the difference between having a great time in Overwatch and also having a miserable one, because if your opponents can destroy your turret so simply, then there's honestly nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing. Unless, of course, you're going up against someone like Tracer. Now, Tracer... I don't even know where I'm meant to put Tracer in all this. I think I'm going to put her maybe actually between that, quite low when you think about it. But Tracer's situation is that, again, I would rather have something like Reaper with more DPS, more power than Tracer's abilities are sort of just designed to keep the game a little bit more skill based, with blinking and then recalling. But all of this doesn't matter unless Tracer can actually kill anything. And sometimes a Tracer will become a little bit too involved in matches, and then one false mistake will cause it to die instantly. Again, it's just a matter of who and how you play her. Whew. Next up, Widowmaker. I'm gonna just place her in D, because again, these ones are sort of like the ones I find more polarizing, because I've played Widowmaker a few times before when I was just trying out stuff like McCree, Genji, Hanzo. She was incredibly effective because I got a hand on exactly what to expect and what will happen next. The interesting thing about this is that Widowmaker, in one game out of 6, I'll play her, and I'll play her kind of just okay, and then I'll play the next 5 or even 6 games terribly. Maybe it's just because of skill differences, or whether or not I'm just not good at towards her. That's entirely it. That's a me problem right there. But I'll tell you one thing that isn't a me problem. Winston is getting a spot on the S tier. I don't know if it's just years of watching XQC playing Overwatch, well, mostly Winston. It's that he's one of the most reliable sources you can get in this game, including Reinhardt. His his Tesla gun locks onto more people, so he can cause more damage. His bubble is just a good little source of protection, and it's so strange to say, but Winston is almost kind of like the catalyst for the game happening in the first place, so we can at least owe it to good old Winston. Next up, I'm just going to make this easier for everyone involved, is going here. Wrecking Ball is honestly the worst character in the entire game. I never understood why in the beginning, when to have the idea of a hamster and a giant Omnidroid device, it seemed a bit too far-fetched. I mean, like, when I saw this at launch, I was kind of just like, okay. And aside from that, he is the bane of every single Overwatch player who's ever been a few meters away from finishing a map. And then Ball comes out, and then you've got to focus him. That's what Ball almost kind of was like. He was just an excuse for people to make fights draw out as long as they can. And you would have thought they would have just written him out the game as opposed to Brigitte. I mean, she's right on top of him as well. That's kind of funny. Penultimate, Zarya, and Zarya is like going to get a spot on A tier. I think roundabout, I'd say actually kind of here. I think Zarya's ability to bubbles, and I'm actually not too bad at like being able to track opponents in this game, and if you're good at that sort of thing, like you see something on screen and you point to them and you just hold down it, if you're good at that, then Zarya is a very ideal choice to go up against. And it's mostly like Genji's that I'd imagine is sort of thing Zarya would go after. And then of course, it's sometimes so simple to get 100% charge on your graviton gun or graviton device. I never really understood what it was called. Then you've got yourself a winner right there. And then there's Zarya's ultimate, which is one that almost again relies on good communication, because when you hear fire at will, then you've got to be ready to strike just about everybody caught in the surge. It's as simple as that, otherwise you're going to go absolutely nowhere in this game. And finally, Zenyatta. In my opinion, Zenyatta is just kind of okay, I suppose. I like the fact that I could do 0 damage knockoff, and Discord is still incredibly useful just to stop people, but and just kill them in an instant. But I think honestly, Zen, I'll just put him between Soldier and Orisa. Zen's only real big weakness is like as far as I can work out, is that he's very vulnerable to DPS because of his huge hitbox. He's very vulnerable to the likes of Winston, who can just lock on his Tesla gun, and of course Zenyatta will never be able to get away. And the fact that Zenyatta's ultimate is still kind of OP for what it is, but there are ways of working around it, and to make it seem as if like his ultimate is just not meant to be. Though it has saved a lot more lives and in caught in graviton surges and whatever else, more than I think we led on. So I suppose I can give him a fast pass for that. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, all 33 heroes, and I don't know whether or not I'm actually kind of like doing this right, or whether or not this really is the sort of list of my choice. Because now I'm trying to look through this and wonder whether or not certain characters are actually better than others. I'll tell you what. Okay, we'll just make the use of the F category as well. We'll put Widow, Sombra. I'll put Mei in front, and I'll put Wrecking Ball behind. Wrecking Ball is still, I think, just like the worst character in the game. Sorry for people who like him, but it's not for me, sadly. I'm actually going to change this around a bit. I'm going to put Bastion down here. I'm going to put I'm going to put Sig in front, just behind Mercy. I'm going to move Lucio down there. I'm going to move Honor sort of in front of that, in front of Zen. And I'm going to move Baptiste in front of Orisa and put Tracer, D.Va, and Brigitte there. And in terms of like where I would put Echo, maybe just behind Soldier. So, okay, so in terms of which characters I would recommend and I would play ad nauseum, I would pick any one of these 18 characters. Genji, Reinhardt, Torbjorn, Doom, Reaper, Winston, Sim, Hanzo, Moira, Zarya, McCree, Hog, Ashe, Pharah, Mercy, Sig, Junk, and Lucio. Of choice, these are the characters I would play in Overwatch. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks, with the only exceptions being Orisa and D.Va is the sort of thing I wouldn't really play. Oh, and Bull. I almost forgot about him for 1 second. How many supports actually do we have here? Mercy, Lucio, and Moira. Well, Moira, Mercy, and Lucio. That still seems quite a difference in comparison to Brigitte, Bap, Ana, and Zen, which is, I think, kind of a bit interesting. And all the remaining DPS, I think, can just about claim really any side for their own. Even Junkrat, who I placed kind of a little bit uncharismatically a bit low on this list, can still, if you know what you're doing and the other team does not, then you are going to get team kill after team kill after team kill. You are, as they say, primed and ready. So I think that's how I'm going to keep it as, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this tier maker list. Hopefully people out there won't be too mad when they see this, but that's purely, honestly, what I think about it. So, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this, and I will hope some of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.